Almost as popular as LS swapping your cars has become on the internet is cutting an access hole into the trunk of your 4th gen F-body to change the fuel pump, because it's way too much work. You got to drop the whole rear end if you want to drop the tank out. Well, I'm going to show you today on the Joy of Cars that you don't have to drop the whole rear end. I have an aversion to cutting holes in my car where they don't belong. I don't like doing it unless it's really necessary. I feel like every time I even drill a hole to mount something, I regret it later. So anyway, I'm going to show you it's not that hard to get your fuel tank out. Even if you're working on an LT1 car with a solid filler neck, you could get that tank down in about an hour. And I'm going to show you how really quick. So we're working on my LT1 Trans Am here, my budget beater. The first step, if you're going to do this, get the car way up in the air, high on some tall jack stands. You want to ass up because you got to drop that ass down low. Drop it low, boy. First thing, after you get it up in the air, take those wheels and tires off. Next thing you're going to do, disconnect sway bar end links and disconnect your sway bar end link on the other side too. Next thing you need to do is disconnect this brake line mount on the driver's side rear of the frame rail. You could just disconnect the mount just to give the line some play. Otherwise, you're going to overstretch the rubber hose and break it. Next, you got to disconnect both your upper and lower panhard bars. It's easier to start with the lower. You could disconnect it from the driver's side, come over to the passenger side. These two bolts are kind of a pain in the ass to get out. You'll get the nut off, but these don't really want to spin easy. You could hit it harder than a drunk stepdad with a hammer, and it doesn't seem to want to go out that way. Best thing to do is come to the other side with a wrench, stick it on there, hit it with a hammer, loosen it up. First, soak it with your favorite, penetrating lube, liquid wrench, PB Blaster, KY Jelly, whatever you like. You can hit it with a little heat too, but don't go crazy with the heat because you'll just burn these rubber bushings out of both of them. But yeah, so drop the panhard bars next. All right, so upper and lower panhard bars are out. The only thing really holding this diff up right now and keeping you from being able to drop the tank, other than the fact that we need to get the exhaust out of the way, are the shocks. So put a jack underneath the diff and disconnect both shock mounts, and we'll let it drop down. You might have to adjust a little bit of preload onto the jack to get both shock mounts out. I had to on this side. And it's out. And now pretty much nothing is holding this in here except the jack. I did not disconnect the torque arm, the drive shaft, or any of that. You don't have to touch that. When we lower this, the coil springs might fall out, but this is going to allow us to lower this thing plenty low. And as it goes lower, it's actually pulling itself towards the front of the car too. So it gives you even more clearance. Look at that. Look at how low that thing got. It's still coming down. Plenty low. There's plenty of room to get a fuel tank in and out of here. Next, we just got to get the exhaust out of the way. And the great thing about doing it this way is we didn't touch, like I said, the torque arm, the drive shaft, so no transmission fluid, lower control arms. Didn't touch with them. Don't have to mess with any of that. And when we go to put this back in after we slide the tank out and in, it pretty much just goes right back into place. It's all in alignment still. You gotta maybe knock it a little bit one way or the other to get the panhard bars in, but it's just going to go right back to where it was. No difficulty lining anything up. Very easy. So next we're going to take the exhaust off. You can try to take yours apart wherever the joint is. Mine, I happen to have had to slice it right there to hook up my EP. I don't know if I want to show you that Y pipe, but EPA is ass ho. But to hook my Y pipe up to the cat back, so I had just put that together loosely. I'm going to get one of those lap style bands to hold it tighter, but I put that together so I had the exhaust hooked up. The car's not really on the road yet, but you can try to get it apart at a seam, or honestly, if it was mine, I might just hack it in a spot like that and put one of those band clamps around it anyway. It's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. So separate the back half of your exhaust however you want to, and then you're going to need to loosen the hangers back here for the muffler. Yeah, and so once this exhaust is down, you got the axle down, there's plenty of space for you to pull this thing out of here. Just gotta get it out of that pipe. It's gonna come. No problem. And now, look at all that space. You got plenty of space to get that tank in and out of there. And today we're going to be keeping our GM all GM by using AC Delco parts. I'm just kidding. This was the cheapest assembly on Rock Auto. And I need a sending unit because when I took the other one apart, it is just junk. I am not getting a reading out of it. Part of the issue I had too was the fuel gauge pegged. So just not grounding out. I guess it just sat too long. Old junk AC Delco probably. But yeah. Okay, and just as a test, I hit the key to make sure my gauge works now. And I hear that pump kick in, and I do. I don't want to keep running the pump dry, but hooked it up. Looks like it's going to work. All right, new sending unit and fuel pumps in. Ready to wrestle this thing into place. I'm going to show you. There's plenty of room here to do so. The only real tricky part is getting that filler neck up and over. And honestly, it's really not that tricky. All right, so I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I had some kind of technical difficulty. I'm not catfishing you. I really put the tank in through here. The video just happened to cut out as soon as I went to go stick it in there. But basically, you just got to finagle it with it up over the axle. Get that filler neck up through the hole. There's plenty of space. Get it up there. Get your straps bolted in place. And now tighten them down. Put it all back together. You will know that you can get the tank back in this way if you try it this way. And obviously, you get the tank out this way.